Hey guys, welcome to the Liberal Hive Mind. Good news, everyone.
Yes, I see. Good news, everyone!
Corrupt DOJ goon Jack Smith suffers another massive loss. We're going to add this to the list of L's that these rogue prosecutors have been stacking up. I guess the goalposts are about to shift. I mean, this really was the last Democrat hope for stopping Donald Trump ahead of the 2024 election. Jack Smith's little DC January 6 case, really the last hope of the Democrat Party, the last hope to get one of these indictments or one of these cases to trial ahead of the election, hopefully branding Donald Trump a convicted criminal and convicted felon ahead of voters casting their ballots. And look, Jack Smith has been trying his little heart out to keep his March 4th trial date right ahead of Super Tuesday, but he just got some bad news after attempting to lobby the Supreme Court to expedite Trump's appeal. The Supreme Court essentially just told him to eat a giant bag of you-know-what as they just delayed hearing Trump's appeal, leapfrogging another case ahead of it. Another huge L for the deranged leftist mob. We've got some stuff to get into, so let's roll the tape. All right, folks, so this honestly might be the headline of the week. There's a lot of news, most of it legal these days. Everyone right now is talking about the Colorado State Supreme Court decision. That seems to be dominating the news cycle, unsurprisingly. But really, there's not much to that story. I think it's just a massive distraction. It's obviously not going to work. It's going to get BTFO'd by the Supreme Court. I'm more focused on Epstein's flight log that's supposedly going to get released here pretty soon by a UK judge, and I'm more interested in this. Supreme Court to delay Capitol riot case. The U.S. Supreme Court on Monday agreed to delay hearing a case involving the January 2021 riot at the U.S. Capitol building to hear oral arguments regarding a charge of obstructing an official proceeding. Over government opposition, Judge Mehta puts off Oath Keeper Tom Caldwell's long-postponed sentencing yet again, this time because SCOTUS reviewed obstruction of an official proceeding felony. Roger Parloff of Lawfare posted on the X platform, according to Newsweek. Gov may also come to rue this paragraph from its opposition papers, admitting that sentencings of Caldwell's co-defendant Oath Keepers were heavily influenced by their convictions of the same offense, 18 U.S. Code 1512C2, now under review by SCOTUS. The nation's highest court previously confirmed it will hear oral arguments for an appeal regarding the charge of obstruction of an official proceeding. The charge has been utilized in various cases relating to the Capitol riot, including the federal indictment brought by special counsel Jack Smith against former President Donald Trump. The appeal in question is the Fisher versus United States case, where riot defendant Joseph Fisher challenged the obstruction of an official proceeding charge. A ruling against the government in the Fisher case in the Supreme Court could well have a ripple effect in many other Capitol riot cases where the defendants were charged with the same obstruction of justice provision, went to trial as opposed to pleading guilty, and were convicted. Former federal prosecutor Michael McAuliffe previously told the news outlet. A Supreme Court decision culling the obstruction of justice statute could also impact the criminal case against Donald Trump in the U.S. District Court in D.C., but it's less clear when and how at this juncture. Because Fisher could potentially upend hundreds of cases, including Trump's, legal experts said the SCOTUS announcement could give Trump's team further reason to delay the trial, which is scheduled to begin on March 4th, 2024. Former U.S. Attorney Barbara McQuade explained to Newsweek that the Supreme Court's decision to hear Fisher's case doesn't necessarily delay Trump's case. However, Smith may consider pushing the trial date until after the justices rule to determine the validity of the 2 counts of obstruction against Trump. Even though he has 2 other counts in the indictment, convictions on the obstruction counts could jeopardize the whole case on appeal if a court were later to find that the jury may have relied on evidence of obstruction in reaching its decision, McQuade told the outlet. Other options are to drop the obstruction counts now and proceed on the other 2 counts, or take his chances with all 4 counts and move forward. Okay, now enough reading. I know sometimes that can get a little bit boring, but really important and really interesting stuff. Jack Smith is facing 2 issues right now. Firstly, his March 4th trial date is completely up in the air. The judge in the case, Judge Chutkan, already paused the trial, awaiting Trump's appeal at the Supreme Court. Well, the more the appeal at the Supreme Court gets delayed, the less likely it is that March 4th trial date will stand. Trump's legal team is now focused on the appeal rather than the actual case presented by Jack Smith. In other words, they've probably wasted already a month and a half, maybe even longer, focused on this appeal and not on the defense against Jack Smith's charges. This gives Trump's legal team an argument to ask for more time ahead of the trial date to properly prepare and go through all documents and all processes of discovery and document collection. So the March 4 trial date is looking like it's probably not so realistic. It never really was realistic. But now on top of that, Jack Smith has some extra issues because depending on the decision in this Fisher versus the United States case relating to obstruction of an official proceeding, if it turns out that the DOJ interpreted the law incorrectly and charged people incorrectly, well, there enters the possibility of Trump having an appeal angle even after possibly being indicted. did, because guess what? He's being charged with the exact same thing, 2 counts. So now Jack Smith is left with the decision. Either drop the 2 counts because he isn't confident on the decision the Supreme Court's going to make here, or proceed with all 4 charges and take the risk. Jack Smith has put himself in a very tough position. Trump's legal team is exercising every option possible for the former president, as they should and as he has the legal right to do. They're going to keep stalling this thing. I think the more time goes by, the more we follow this story, the less likely it seems that Jack Smith will be successful. I have absolutely no doubt that Jack Smith will be successful in prosecuting Donald Trump in this case. I think it's already a foregone conclusion. In 95% plus Democrat stronghold Washington, D.C., the jury will most likely side with Jack Smith and find Donald Trump guilty. I think Jack Smith obviously knows that, and he's trying desperately to make it happen, but I don't know if he's going to be able to pull it off. And honestly, I think even if he pulls it off, I don't know if it's going to accomplish what Democrats think it's going to accomplish. I see 2 likely outcomes. Either they find him guilty and it's this big Democrat hoorah, which then leads to shock, outrage, and dismay from the American public. I think it's going to create absolute chaos, and I'm not even convinced that it leads to Joe Biden winning in 2024. Either that's going to happen, or the case just won't happen ahead of the election at all. And it's pretty much going to be a nothing burger. Trump's going to win, going to grant himself immunity, which I think he should, and it'll end there, and Democrats will probably be crying for 4 years about impeaching, and whatever, we'll go through 4 years of Trump is literally Hitler and we must impeach him now. Either way, I see this whole thing falling apart. I don't see it accomplishing what the Democrats are hoping it accomplishes. And honestly, what I'm really hoping for here is that the Supreme Court makes a decision quickly, and that decision is that President Trump cannot be charged because he is protected by presidential immunity. I think Jack Smith should go down as one of the most controversial prosecutors in American history, because really, no matter the outcome of Jack Smith's little case, his little trial here, whether he gets what he wants or whether he doesn't, whether Trump wins or whether Trump is stopped from winning, the end result is going to be one thing: heightened division, angst, animosity, potential violence, riots. The Biden administration, Merrick Garland's DOJ, Jack Smith are obviously playing with fire here. Jack Smith, in a way, is attempting to play God, putting his dirty thumb on the scale, and that just can't lead to anything positive. We're either headed to further division, chaos, and riots, or we're headed straight to civil war. That's honestly the way that I look at it these days. It seems as though Democrats won't stop escalating until it reaches that point. I hate to say it, but I think that's the sad reality. Nothing will stop these people in their quest for absolute power, even if that means the destruction of the nation. That is what I believe. They will pit you against each other. The classic divide and conquer strategy. Step number 1 is cause chaos and division, and while people are distracted, attempt to grab control by any means necessary. And it seems like the means thus far is election interference, subverting American democracy, federal prosecutors picking who can run for president and who can't, effectively ending democracy as we know it. Anyways, that's what I got for you guys. Hopefully you enjoyed the video. If you did, make sure to leave a like and possibly subscribe. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you on the next one.